Okay, wonderful. So again, thank you for joining us. My name is Lauren. We have Madeline and Russell here, our global ambassadors, as well as our alumni from this past summer for our government and diplomacy programs. Okay, so um, so for our government and diplomacy programs, we have topic programs all across the world, but our government and diplomacy programs are in Amsterdam. That's our Inside World Governance program. That's where Madeline spent her summer this past summer. We have peace and diplomacy studies in Tallinn, Estonia, which is right here just in Eastern Europe, right on kind of the border of Russia. And then we have a dual site peace and diplomacy program in Seoul, South Korea, as well as Taipei, Taiwan, looking at kind of the context of peace and diplomacy between China and Taipei, as well as Seoul, South Korea, and North Korea. So those are the options for our peace and diplomacy and government programs. However, you can see we have a vast variety of programs all across the world. Okay, so CIEE stands for the Council on International Educational Exchange. We were founded in 1947, so we've been doing this for over 75 years. We are actually the oldest and largest nonprofit study abroad organization in the country. We are here to talk about summer high school abroad programs, but we don't just support high school students. We support over 40,000 students every year. That is the 3,600 students that we supported on our outbound high school summer programs, as well as inbound high school. So international students coming to spend their semester or their school year in communities just like yours. We also support college study abroad, so outbound college study abroad, inbound college study abroad, exchange visitors, work and travel students, as well as teach abroad. Like I mentioned, we are the oldest and largest nonprofit study abroad organization, and we are truly mission driven. We do truly believe in the cultural exchange between people all over the world. And for our high school programs in particular, one of the things that I think is most unique and special about our programming is that we do administer the largest scholarship fund specifically for US high school students. This year, we will be awarding $7 million to students from across the nation based on academic merit, as well as academic and financial need. So some of our students will receive scholarships that could potentially cover up to 100% of their program costs. One of our kind of missions and goals is to truly make study abroad accessible to all students in high school. And to make this kind of an opportunity for any student, if they want to do it, they will have the ability to do so. And finances should not hinder them. Okay, so our topic program. So our government and diplomacy programming, these are our topic-based programs. CIEE has two different options. We have our topic programs and our language programs. Our topic programs are 3 weeks long. They are taught in English because English language is not the primary focus. So these diplomacy and government programs, they're all of the classes are taught in English. The students will receive survival language for whatever target language that in the country that they're in. Topic programs are STEM. They can they could choose programming in STEM, so conservation, engineering, science, arts and culture, business, and social change. Some of our programming offers service learning hours, but all of our topic-based programming, students will return home with research projects or projects that they can include in college applications or portfolios. One of the things that I think is most interesting is that students in these particular programs can use this summer opportunity to really explore a passion that they are interested in, or something that they may want to study in college. So maybe the student for this presentation, government and diplomacy has always been an interest of theirs. They can use these 3 weeks to really delve into the different types of diplomacy, the different types of world governments, and really learn from local professionals, local politicians, and get kind of a global context for the kind of world that we're living in. Also, an edge for college. So less than 2% of high school students have a study abroad experience. So having this type of experience can really help a student stand out on a college application, and really have a lot of information and knowledge to put into a college essay. Okay, so for our topic-based programs for peace and diplomacy and for our government programs, what is it like on the program with shared accommodation? So for these 3-week-long programs, students are typically in shared accommodation. So this would be a dedicated floor or a block of rooms in either a youth hostel, a hotel, or a youth dormitory. Madeline and Russell can talk a little bit more about what their experience was like in the shared accommodations, but typically it will be up to 4 students per room with a shared bathroom. And our program leaders do live in the same accommodations to provide our students with the 24/7 supervision and support. Program leaders are typically US-based educators that travel with our students. From the US, they are not teaching our students. We have full-time staff and full-time teachers that will be teaching our students while they're there. These program leaders are, I kind of refer to them as mentors or guides to kind of help students throughout the program, right? So to provide that supervision and support and the accommodation, to help with cultural activities, to bridge the gap between what they're learning in their host country and what they can bring back with them to their home communities. Okay. Madeline and Russell, I'm sure will talk a lot more about what their weeks looked like this past summer and what your weeks could look like this upcoming summer. But we understand that it is summer, and so we want students to be able to have fun and experience the culture and the country that they're in while also having an academic experience. So students are going to be in interactive classes or workshops for about 2 to 3 hours a day. Sometimes that, depending on the program, that could be in the morning or that could be in the afternoon. And then there will be cultural activities each day as well, typically related to whatever class or workshop that they're doing that day. This could be maybe going to the European Union or going to visit the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador in Tallinn, or going to a museum, or a vast variety of other things that Madeline and Russell can discuss about their experience. And then students will have the opportunity typically each day to have free time to explore. So this is a great opportunity for students to really continue to build that independence on their own with their fellow global navigators. And then on some programs, we do provide students with weekend trips. So typically a 1-day trip, as well as a 1-night overnight excursion outside of the city that they're spending their weeks in. So this will give them an opportunity to experience a different part of the country, a different experience while they're there. All of these are included in the program costs, the activities, the workshops, the excursions, excuse me, as well as accommodation and meals. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it on to Madeline. Madeline is one of our global ambassadors from New York City. She studied world governance in Amsterdam, Netherlands this summer. So let's see if there's any specific questions. Let me see here. Oops. Or if you want to take it away, Madeline, and kind of introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Madeline. I'm in 11th grade and I live in New York City and I studied world governments in Amsterdam. And honestly, like I had an amazing time studying there. CIE provided like a lot
There
of
we go.
different like accommodations. Like living in Amsterdam was really nice, like staying in the hostels, like it was very safe and it was like sort of a community there and it was just really nice. Like yeah, and then also like education-wise, studying world governments, we had a lot of cool opportunities like going to the European Commission, European Union in Brussels, Belgium for a weekend trip. And also in Amsterdam itself, we went to The Hague, which is where the International Criminal Court of Justice is and the International Court of Justice is and the International Criminal Court is. And it's very special because I know for a fact, like for the to get into the International Court of Justice, you do need like a certain like supervision to go into there. So very few people can go into there from the outside. So it was very interesting going there and talking to the ambassadors there in the International Court of Justice. Also like CIE, they provided really cool outings as well to explore Amsterdam. One of the outings that's really stuck out to me was that we went to this woman's house to make like a traditional Dutch dish called stamppot, and it was just like really tight, like in her apartment, and we were all just working together to make this dish, which was really like immersive into the culture, even though this isn't like a cultural program. We had a lot of cool weekend trips. Like we went to like this park area and we like rented bikes and you can play soccer and go into the lake and etc. And also like we went on like the canals in Amsterdam. And overall, like they really equipped us with like the best accommodations and the best experience. Like we had a tour guide who would go around with us to the different museums that we attended. And overall, like it was just a really positive experience. Um, like it was a good mix of between like going to school and also having like just outside like excursions to explore the city that we were in. And yeah, it was really positive.
Thanks, Madeline. That was a great overview. I'm not seeing any questions yet, but I have a few questions for you if you don't mind me asking. So what made you so first of all, forgive me, what grade are you in? Could you let the
I
audience
am
know?
I'm in 11th grade,
Okay.
so I'm a
So
junior.
you were a rising junior. What made you out of all of the different types of programs that we have, why did you decide to travel to Amsterdam and choose this one in particular?
I think I decided to travel to Amsterdam because, first of all, like the actual program of studying world governments really sparked my interest because I have an interest like in international relations. And also like throughout school, like I've been doing debate since I was like in middle school. So obviously I kind of have like the public speaking aspect and I just wanted to explore that more deeply into just like international politics, which I've always found fascinating. So I knew that the world governments in Amsterdam was a really good choice. And also like I've never been to Amsterdam as well, and I've always thought of it as like a bucket list like city to visit. And honestly, like spending 3 weeks there was really nice and amazing, and it's still one of my favorite cities to this day because it's so easy to get around and it's so like there's just a big community of it, and it's just really it was a really good city to attend for CIE and sort of like you're basically like living there for 3 weeks, which is really nice.
Awesome. And I know you have mentioned that you've done debate since middle school, and now you are in your school's Model UN. Is that
Yes,
correct?
I
Your model.
am.
Yeah. So did this program kind of solidify you wanting to join that Model UN club? Or if not, if you knew you were going to do it regardless, do you feel like this program kind of helps you better understand, you know, kind of approaching your Model UN and competitions and public speaking?
Definitely, definitely. I think like this sort of program definitely inspired me to try out for my school's Model UN team, and it just sparked this interest in me to continue to explore like my interest in international politics. And I think this program also like the stuff that we did and also like the stuff that we learned through this program, it just helped me with my public speaking skills and just gave me like a greater knowledge of different like governments, especially in Europe with like the European Union since we attended that and just speaking to
Mhm.
the people who are part of these like organizations, which is really cool because I don't know, like they just had a lot of insight to say and a lot of insight into the actual like systems that run our world basically.
Great. So I think we do have a question from the chat. So some of the questions are, what kind of projects did you do in this program?
Okay. So I remember the big project that we had at the end of the program was we had to work with a member of like of our program and we had to create this sort of like presentation of like a topic that we chose. So I believe like for me and my team, we chose about stolen art in like different museums of across like Europe and etc. or we just focused sort of on that because like since throughout this program we attended different famous museums. Like we attended the Van Gogh Museum, we attended like the Rijksmuseum, I believe, in Amsterdam, which is like the famous National Museum of Amsterdam. It just inspired us to explore deeply into sort of like imperialism and like the fact that like art was stolen. And we made a
Hmm.
presentation on that. And I know like other people, they focus their presentations on like children and like child labor as well. And we connected that to like the world governments and its influence on that. And yeah, it was honestly just really interesting, like finding out like what other people were researching and getting into. And also like the discussions that we had in class was very insightful as well. Like we talked a lot about like the systems of like the European Union, if it was like positive or not, and also just like it just each lesson would lead on to the place that we'd visit. So we'd talk about the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice, and then we would attend it, and then just to talk to the people part of these courts, which is really interesting. And everything just kind of like led up to like what we're gonna go to.
Great. Yeah, and kind of to follow up on you just mentioned about like the International Criminal Court and meeting some of these politicians. Another question from the chat, did you get to meet anyone who works in international politics?
Um, I believe in the international, no, in the European Union, we met someone who was a British ambassador, but this was after Brexit. So he was talking about how it's very interesting that he's still there. I think he's in the picture, like in like the picture when we were in the European European Union. He was talking
Him,
about
right?
his experience. Yeah. He was talking about his experience after Brexit and how there's still influence, like obviously Great Britain, like there's still influence in the European Union and how he still has a role there. So that was interesting. And I believe we talked, I forgot who she was, but she gave us like it was in the International Court of Justice and she brought us there and she kind of just like talked about it. I believe she was an ambassador. I honestly forgot who she was, but she was very important and she like took her time out of the day to talk to us, which was very cool.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, so for everyone, the British ambassador is in this picture right underneath education, if you can see my mouse. So that was one of the politicians that Madeline got to interact with. Which does make it really cool. A lot of our programs are all very localized. Our programming and our programs in our study centers are all permanent. So we run programs year round. And so our staff can really embed themselves in the community. All of our staff are local to that city. And so we can really develop strong ties with different people, different organizations because of that, which makes our programs really unique. And I think having that opportunity to interact with some of these world leaders is really incredible. Um, a few more questions, Madeline. Question about food, right? So food is always an insight into a culture. Someone asked, how is the food in Amsterdam and how does it compare to the food in America?
The food in Amsterdam, some of it was kind of I'm gonna be honest, some of it's kind of like mediocre, but also like it was like the certain areas you were in, because also living at the hostel that we stayed at, the Stay Okay hostel, it was we went to like the dining hall and like we like for dinner we would go there, but also like you did have the option to eat out if you wanted on certain days. So I remember we did find this like pasta place by our hostel that was really nice, and there was this also really good gelato place as well. And they took us out onto different like dinners as well. I believe like we went to like this Indonesian restaurant in Amsterdam, which is really cool. And we also went to like the first like Jamaican restaurant in Amsterdam.
Hmm.
And yeah, and if you see like in the top right corner, it was like one of like the people's like part of the program's birthday. So we went to the grocery store and we like bought a cake for them. And like it was two of their birthdays, so we shared that as well. And honestly, like that just goes back to like the actual program itself and like just the idea of community. Like yeah, like you're here for only 3 weeks with like these people, but also like in that short amount of time, like you become like a very tight knit community very quickly. And I found myself just like hanging out with them like all the time. Like after class and after anything, we would go out and we would like explore the city, or we would come back to the hospital and we would like play pool or something or play volleyball. And it was just like really nice because like you felt like you were living there and like just had this like good community around you to like go out and like eat and like yeah. But honestly, like, going back to the food, like it was pretty good. Like I like the food in Brussels as well because we went there and like we were able to just like go out sort of and just like have dinner. And all of it was still pretty safe as well because like we had to check in with like the WhatsApp group. So even though you're going out and you're going a lot out on your own, like you're still like kept in check like by these people, and I still felt like very safe like when I was out like without supervision.
Yeah. Can you talk really quickly about um, what it was like in your shared accommodation? You mentioned the dining hall in the accommodation. So what was that like for you?
Um, it was honestly really good. Like I think I had like four roommates and it was like sort of like a bunk bed system. And honestly, like the people I was sharing my room with, like everyone was really considerate of each other. And it was just like really nice. And even though like you can't really, I don't think you can request like the people in your room. It like depends. I think you can, like certain people did. But even though it's like my room like was fully randomized, like those people like I'm still close with to this day. And just like living in the hostel was really nice because like our hostel specifically, there's like a lot of shared spaces and like there's also like another program there as well. Like it was like this ballet program, so you would talk to them and it was just really nice. Like it was a really big community. And yeah, like I just enjoyed like playing games like at night or just like talking and sitting and stuff like that.
Great. And to kind of follow up on that, you mentioned kind of the ability to in the community that you had, even though you're there for a short amount of time, and your friends. One of the cool things about our programs is that you're with students from all over the country, right? You're not just from students from your school or from your state. Are you still in touch? Someone asked, are you still in touch with any of the friends from your program now?
Yeah, actually, some of the people from my program were actually from New York City as well, and I found out like we do have like a lot of mutual friends with each other, so it was nice and like just like everyone's sort of like surrounded all over, and it's also really interesting to become friends with people from like California or Oregon or like Canada even. There's one girl from Canada, and honestly, like it just gives you like kind of more like a country mindset because like now you have friends from all over, and I still do keep in touch with some of these people. Like we don't talk all like every single day but I still like text them like ever so often and we still like see each other like on like social media and it would still like we still like look at this experience like really fondly upon because it was really nice like just going to class with them just like living in this like country for 3 weeks together.
Nice. And I believe we'll do two more questions. And then we'll have one more question from the chat, and then we'll move on to Russell, and then I'll kind of do a kind of closeout question. Approximately how many people were in your program this summer? How many students?
I'm gonna want to say like 20 to 30, but,
Hmm.
like, how our classes worked was that we had, like a group A and group B, because I think I was a bigger program, I feel like. So, group A would, like, have classes in the morning, and then group B would have classes in the afternoon, but I didn't
Hmm.
really have much of an issue with that at all because sort of, like, it was still, like, a good routine, and, like, you just, like, get to know, like, more people in, like, a smaller group setting, which is really nice. And I like the people in, like that I had classes with and I was, like, in my group with, and we still had a lot of fun, like, even though it wasn't with, like, the whole entire, like, program.
Awesome. Um, and then I guess to kind of just close out with you, so obviously, um, you know, I kind of talked a little bit about college readiness, career readiness, and these types of programs, and that you were interested in kind of world governance. And you're a junior, so you're kind of maybe at this point thinking a little bit about not college. Um, has this um, has this experience kind of shaped what you think you might want to be studying in college, if that's what you plan on doing? How has this kind of, in terms of after high school, has this kind of experience shaped you?
I feel like this experience shaped me really well because it just gave me more of a passion for international relations and also just the experience because where my classes were held, it was on like the University of Amsterdam's campus. And like we for lunch we would eat in like their dining hall area and it was just really nice kind of like being immersed in this college atmosphere. So that definitely like is helping me feel ready for college and definitely like being away from family and just like being on my own and being more independent throughout this program has made me feel like more prepared for college and especially just like it's, like, the education I learned and, like, what I gained from this experience, just learning more about international politics has made me, like, more inclined to study this in college and sort of, like, explore that area and just, like, get to know more, especially now, like, through my school, like, with Model UN and debate, like, I just, like it gives me, like, more passion to just, like, put more energy into that.
Great. Yes. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing your experience, Madeline. We'll have a few more questions for both you and Russell at the end, but I just want to give time for Russell as well. So now we have Russell. He is one of our global ambassadors from North Carolina. Russell is a senior this year, and he spent 3 weeks in our Peace and Diplomacy program in Tallinn, Estonia. So, Russell, many people probably may not know exactly where Estonia is. It's definitely one of the more obscure European countries. So, I guess my first question would be why Estonia? Why Tallinn?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was probably the same as most people in here. I don't think I knew that Estonia existed before I signed up for this program. Um, I was kind of the opposite of Madeline. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I still don't really know what I want to do for college and beyond. So I kind of looked at all of the programs, kind of picked out the ones I was interested in, and then looked at the locations. I wanted to do something unique, and I decided I would probably never have a reason to go to Estonia again. So why not give it a shot? And it was awesome. Tallinn is obviously very different from Amsterdam. It's a much smaller city, um, but I love the old town. Most of the our hotel was right inside of the old town walls, which was super cool. I mean, you're right in the middle of it. Feels like you're going into Hogwarts or something when we were walking around for the first time. And there are just so many cool places within the little old town that you can just find little hole in the wall shops and restaurants. But and then the city itself, it's a very interesting dynamic with it has a very developed downtown. It's a very socially and politically and technologically progressive country. Like the you use your phone almost everywhere. All the menus are on a QR code, so it's a very advanced city. But you're also in a old town that feels like you're going back to the 1600s. And I thought that was super cool.
Yeah. Can you, and maybe I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can you maybe give a not like a like really in-depth history, but what makes Estonia in terms of peace and diplomacy so unique? Like what were you guys kind of um, really kind of looking at and studying in some of your classes in terms of diplomacy, peace studies within kind of that Eastern European country?
Yeah, so I would say Estonia, it's on the border with Russia. Global politics are what they are. That's tumultuous. It's very safe. Like that's not a concern at all. They're in the EU, they're in NATO, and Tallinn itself is incredibly safe. Um, but our history lesson, I mean, we had a good mix of kind of current and past history for Estonia. It's kind of been a conquered land for a lot of its history. So there's a lot of very interesting history that we got to learn about. And then when we go to talk with, like we met the ambassador to the U.S. and one of the photos there, and then we also met basically the vice president of Estonia, and we got to have like a one-on-one chat with him, which was super cool. He's not on the slides there, but that was very interesting. And so it's very interesting. I mean, they do a good job of kind of showing you what happened in the past and how that's shaping kind of current endeavors, how they've kind of gotten to where they are and being a very strong political and economic contributor. I don't want to give away the whole program, but I thought
No,
that
that's
it was a good mix of history and current information and talking with all the we went to like they had a think tank basically for a lot of political strategy. I thought that was super interesting. Taught you a lot about how the Estonian government works and how they conversate with other countries. And we went to a NATO cybersecurity center. They do a lot of cybersecurity there. And so we learned a lot about kind of the current, how they keep peace. Good mix of past
yeah.
and current.
Awesome. Yeah, great. I wanted that was great to get I know it's very complicated and
Yeah.
complex, but just kind of given the uniqueness of the kind of the program, just get kind of an overview. And yes, um for people, this is the US ambassador to Estonia. So the students on the program got to meet with him as well. Yeah, and so I'll just kind of see, let's see what's going on in the chat here. Okay. We'll kind of ask you some of the same questions that they asked of Madeline to kind of get a different kind of compare and contrast of the two programs. So what were the kind of projects that you and your fellow global navigators did in this program?
Yeah, so our big project for the program was very open-ended. They kind of broke ours up because it's a 3-week program. The first week is kind of an explore week, second week is kind of a learn week, and then the third week is put it together, present what you know. And so you kind of, as you go through, you have a lot of your bigger, kind of more important visits. We went to Parliament, the embassy, all of that within the first week, and you kind of get the gist of how their politics function, how that relates with other countries, things like that in the first week. And then by then you can kind of decide on a topic that you want to investigate over the next 2 weeks. And so as you ask people their questions on your visits or tours, and then as you're in your classes, you can kind of think about what you want to explore. So for my project specifically, we just did partners because we were a smaller program. And we investigated how popular culture has impacted Estonia's kind of political sphere. We thought that was really interesting, kind of did a compare and contrast with the US. Tallinn being a very, I mean, it's still a small city, but they have a good, almost good cultural center. And so they've been within Estonia and Eastern Europe, they've been a very interesting center for popular culture. And so we thought that would be a cool one to investigate. So
Yeah,
can,
awesome.
yeah.
Cool. So you did talk about your experience meeting the U.S. ambassador here in the picture. So if you can maybe just share a little bit about what that was like, meeting with him. And then was there anyone else that you had an opportunity in terms of diplomacy or international politics that you met? So maybe talk a little bit, expand on your meeting with the ambassador, and then was there any other kind of politicians or diplomats that you were able to connect with while you were there?
Yeah, so in the photo we met Mr. Kent, who is the U.S. ambassador to Estonia. He's very interesting. We did a whole tour of the embassy, which I had never been inside of an embassy, so I thought that was very cool. And he talked a lot about how he got into foreign affairs, how he ended up in the embassy, what he likes about it, what he doesn't like about it, what he, hopes to do in the future, and kind of his whole role within U.S. Tallinn relations. And it was, because we had such a small group, it was very, I think everybody asked him a question and he gave great answers. So it was very, very personable. And I think one of our other big people that we met was Jüri Ratas, who was, I didn't actually know it when we met him, but I found out he's basically the vice president of Estonia while we were there. He's one of the co-heads of parliament. He's now actually moved into the European Parliament, so he's not even in Estonia anymore. But he was another one that was very interesting, and he's lived in Estonia his whole life, and he could remember when they were still a communist nation in the 90s, and had a lot of very interesting perspective. He's been involved in some very cool green initiatives there, and a lot of the just lawmaking, taught us a lot about how they're similar and different from the US in terms of Estonia's government itself. He didn't really do as much with diplomacy, but had a lot of good government insight. And again, very personable, only had a group of 10. I think everybody asked him a question. And there were a few others. I can't even remember. We had one other who gave a talk. We were there with a Stanford group, was at the same time. And one of the other, I think it was maybe a communications director within the embassy, gave a presentation to us. So he was very interesting. It was a little bit larger group. So, but he had a very interesting presentation. He's from North Carolina, so I thought that was kind of cool. And he again had a lot of insights on how he got into foreign affairs, how he, what his job is like. So I think for anybody interested in foreign affairs, it was a lot of good insight.
Awesome. And just to kind of follow up with one of the questions that was asked from Madeline, you had said about the size of the group. So your program, you said that there was only 10 other, or not, I guess 9 other global navigators on the program with you. So 10 in total. Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So a very intimate setting then, giving you a lot of opportunities to kind of really engage with some of those leaders in Estonia, it seems like. Yeah.
I
awesome.
think again, like Madeline said, you definitely create a community. I think we had we had a ton of fun just playing cards and staying up late at night. And you always get a group for dinner, and you have a lot of fun. We still keep up with each other, so you definitely form a community even in the just the 3 weeks you're there.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of follow up on that? So you do still have, you are still in touch with some of your pals from the program. And what was your kind of shared accommodation experience like?
Yeah, so we actually had a hotel. I mean, it was a kind of a mix between a hotel and hostel. But so ours were only 2 to a bedroom. Good experience if you're going to college. Got to learn how to share a dorm. That was how I kind of framed it. You had your own bathroom, which was nice. You didn't have to share a bathroom with the whole floor. But yeah, so it was 2 to room. Those are, I mean, you get to know your roommate well. You got to like him by the end of the program. So and yeah, it was nice. I loved the location of our hotel. Was definitely the biggest plus, and your roommate situation is what you make it. But I thought it worked out great for everybody in our program. And
Yeah.
with the community, did you have another question?
Yeah, I was like the kind of community you had mentioned. Yeah, you can continue with that. Forgive me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we keep up all the time. Our group chat from there is still people pop in every couple days and say what's going on. One girl is on another CIE program on a year abroad, and so she's got a bunch of stories to tell and other CIE people that she meets. And so yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, you're just best friends while you're there, and you go on adventures together, and you eat dinner together, and you sleep together, and it's fun. I thought.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we have a few more questions. Specifically, so this is for I guess both of you. Well, first of all, hold on, let me ask you the same question. Forgive me. What was the food like, right, in Estonia, and how would you compare it to the United States? We'll give you that same question from Madeline.
Yeah, I would say it's a lot of Estonia doesn't really have like a cuisine, and so it's a lot of very international food. Like we had, I think there were like 2 kebab shops right outside of our hotel, so I ended up getting that for lunch a lot because I was always running late. But I think it's a lot of you can kind of find what you want. They had a big mall that had some pretty unique Eastern European dishes. Found some stuff I like. Tried cheburuk, and they have a bunch of soups that were very unique. But it's also a lot of, I mean, you can find what you like. There was a McDonald's right behind the hotel. If you want to be lame, you can get that every day, but don't do that. And so, yeah, I mean, I think you can find things you can find in America. They had a grocery store that had almost everything you could want. But it also gives you good chances to branch out. And I don't think I had anything I disliked. So
Great. Okay, and so there's a few questions that are kind of well, first off, we'll go, I guess, to both of you, but I'll ask Russell first. Since you are a graduating senior, you are obviously now kind of in that mindset of the next steps after high school. How do you feel this experience kind of shaped what you want to do maybe after high school? I know you mentioned kind of building that independence, learning how to kind of live with a roommate in a like a dorm style situation, and also you're probably in the midst of your college applications right now. So in terms of like college essays and stuff, let's talk a little bit about, have you included your experience at all in any of these college essays, and how has that kind of shaped what you might want to study after high school?
yeah, I would say the biggest thing for me is it definitely opened me up to studying abroad in college, going far away for college, being more independent in that sense. I think there were a lot of programs that I wouldn't have considered that, like one of the main ones I'm looking at NC State is a 2 years there and then 2 years abroad, which I don't think I ever would have considered had I not done that. But now that's kind of one of my top choices because I really enjoyed the travel. And I think I mean, it's towards the top of my Common App activities list. Got to fill that one out somehow. And I have brought it up in a number of my essays. It's a great one for, if you want to show some independence, want to show some maturity, want to show some interest in the topic you're going into, it's great for that. And yeah, was there anything else to that question that I didn't hit?
Nope. No, I think that's great. Thank you. Okay, so this will be kind of for both of you. So maybe Madeline first, and then we'll kind of pass it back to Russell. The weather. So we have a question from a fellow Floridian like myself. What was the weather like in Amsterdam and in Estonia? She's a or he or she is a Floridian, so their definition of cold may be a little different.
Okay, I think from a Floridian standpoint, I feel like Amsterdam would be a bit chilly because, well, to me, like in New York City, like now, like the weather in Amsterdam when I was there was mostly like 70s. Maybe it went down to like 60s if it was raining. But overall, I thought the weather was pretty decent. Like I know like there can be some rain when you're there, but for the most part it was like sunny skies and honestly like I wore like shorts outside even if it was like 70 something degrees because to me like that's pretty warm. But yeah, like I thought the weather was pretty good and it's like really nice when you see like the canals and it's like nice and sunny, like it's really pretty and stuff.
Awesome. So maybe bring a light jacket for the evenings
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Bring like a
For us
hoodie for sure.
for us Floridians. What about Russell? What about the weather in Estonia and in Tallinn? How would you describe it to a Floridian?
Yeah, I think for a Floridian, it might be there will be some cool mornings that you'll have to get out. You might need a pair of pants, but I think in general it was very comfortable. You could wear shorts almost anywhere. Maybe a light jacket. If it was raining, you definitely wanted it would get cooler, but that was about it. I think pack a couple pairs of pants and a rain jacket and you'll be fine.
Awesome, great. And then this will be for both of you as well. So Madeline, a someone asked, is prior debate or public speaking skills, excuse me, encouraged for the peace and diplomacy programs?
Um, I don't think it is really like needed because I feel like as long as you know like you're a decent public speaker and you're decently comfortable with it, you should be okay. Like it can definitely help like just like talking about certain subjects, but if you do have interest like outside of it, even if you're not doing debate or like Model UN or anything like that, like you should be fine. Like I know some people like they weren't doing debate at all or like they weren't in Model UN, but they still had like a lot of fun. They still had like a lot of interest into it.
Russell, what would you say about your program?
I'm not in any Model UN or debate or anything like that, and it was totally fine. I mean, I think it helps to have an understanding of politics and anything with that, but I don't think it's even, I wouldn't even really say it's necessary. I think you can kind of learn as you go. And, but if, if you have more of an interest in it, you'll get more out of it, I think. So.
Great. Yeah. So as long as there's an interest and a desire to kind of put yourself out there, the public speaking skills will come, right, as part of the learning experience in the program. Um, yeah, so I want to kind of hear from both of you. I know we have a few more minutes. So if there are still more questions that we would like to ask our alumni panelists, please feel free to put them in the chat. But I think for both of you, so Madeline, if you kind of wanted to kind of explain a little bit more, kind of expand on what your kind of like day-to-day life looked like and on, on an average day. And then what was kind of your favorite cultural activity that you did?
Okay, so a day-to-day activity, well, for me, since I was in like the later group, I would wake up later than people who like have to go to class. So I would wake up, then I would like go downstairs and I would like eat some breakfast, and then we would gather up as a group, and if we had like a cultural excursion for it, like the morning, we would go. So like example would be like going to like the Van Gogh Museum or like the Anne Frank in Anne Frank's house or something like that. And then also like we had other opportunities as well, like going to different like markets or just like exploring that sort of area. And if we had a free like morning, then we can kind of just like go out, sleep in, do what we want. And then we would head over to the University of Amsterdam campus and we had some lunch or something like that. And then we would go into classes. I believe classes are like 3 hours ish, or depending on like the day or something like that. But yeah. And then we would have some free time depending if there's a cultural activity or not, and then we would have dinner, and sometimes maybe they have an activity, but most of the time, like, the nights were kind of yours, so you would use it to kind of, like, spend time with friends, sort of maybe go out around the area or just, like, hang out in the common room, and then you would go to bed. But, yeah,
Great.
and I think Wait, you mentioned like cultural activity that we did?
What was your favorite cultural activity?
Okay. Um, well, I remember like we took like Dutch classes for a second, so that was pretty interesting, like learning Dutch. And also we did like a video where you had to speak in Dutch, which was cool. But I don't know if this is like a culture activity, but it was like in like the community of Amsterdam. We went on this one activity where we swam in like the canal, or like there was like we kind of went to this like big like swimming area in Amsterdam that people go when it's like warmer outside, and we were able, if you wanted to like swim in the canal, and it was just like really cool like being in that area, because I know like that area does get popular when it's really hot outside. Like it was really cold, but it was like really fun and like very memorable. So like that was definitely one of my favorite experiences like in Amsterdam, and like dealing with like the activities and stuff.
Awesome. Russell, what about you? What was your kind of favorite cultural activity? And if you can just kind of give a brief kind of overview of what your kind of day looked like. And then we'll
Yeah,
have two
so our
more
day to
questions
day,
and we'll wrap up.
our day to day was kind of different from Madeline's since we only had one group. We did all of our activities together. So we would have you normally wake up, you'd get breakfast, and then we'd all meet together and we'd go to if we were going to the we had a UN experience, I guess, related to Madeline. So if we were going to the UN experience, we'd meet up, say 9 a.m. and then we'd go to that for 2 hours, and then we'd come back and we might have a lesson with our teacher there, and then you get lunch. We had Estonian language lessons for maybe a week or a little bit longer. Those are just kind of thrown in. You don't have to learn the language. So then we might have lunch, come back, do that, and then you kind of have free time. That would run into dinner. You could get dinner out, come back, get people with the group, whatever. So you do a lot of exploring during your free time, find a museum, go walk on the beach, do whatever you wanted. And then the evenings were always pretty free too. You had curfews, I think 9 p.m. or something like that. So you could go out until then, and then you had to be in your room and supposedly going to bed. And yeah,
Cool.
a lot of free time.
What
Favorite
was,
cultural activity?
yeah, what was your favorite?
Yeah, ours was pretty unique. This was kind of cool. In the bottom left and the middle bottom right photos were both holidays that were actually going on in Estonia at the time. So ours, just because the timing of it, we were there for the Midsummer Festival and then the Hansa Days at the end of our trip. And the Midsummer Festival was super cool. I'd never been to Europe. I'd never experienced anything like that. I guess another thing in Estonia, it never really gets dark. I guess like the one kind of sunset photo, that's about as dark as it would get because it's so far north. So that was
Oh,
pretty
wow.
unique. It would get kind of to sunset and then the sun would start coming back up. And so since we were there right at midsummer, they had their Midsummer Festival, big bonfires, cool things you got to experience. They had little skits going on and all sorts of dancing and festivities. And then their Hansa Day. So those were the coolest kind of cultural things. We also
Yeah.
did the Estonian lessons, which were fun to go out and use your Estonian. Most of us decided to order ice cream, and then that kind of became a call sign with us for Uksiakis, what ice cream. That was our kind of greeting from then on. So that was fun.
Awesome. Great. And so we have two more questions because we're about 9 minutes till 8 o'clock. So I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. But to kind of follow up, we'll ask one more question about the programs, and then we did have some questions about the application. So I wanted to make sure I got to that as well. But in terms of, you both mentioned kind of learning Dutch and learning Estonian, we have a question for someone who only speaks English. What was it like getting around and interacting with others in that kind of environment? Madeline, do you want to answer first quickly, and then we'll
Yeah.
pass it to Russell?
Okay, like specifically in Amsterdam, like everyone speaks English there, so you didn't really have to know any Dutch. Like it is like courteous to say hello in Dutch, or like say good morning or thank you. But honestly, like Amsterdam is a really easy country to get around in if you only know English. And yeah, like it's not like anything like in France or something where you need to know French. Like Dutch is very English friendly. So that's why I also like really appreciate it as well, because like it's really easy like to get around.
Russell, what about in Estonia? What was it like?
Yeah, Estonia was a lot of the same. It was very English friendly. You might say hello and thank you in Estonian. But I mean, worst case, you'd use some Google Translate. You might have one lady at the grocery store got kind of mad at me because I couldn't understand what she was saying, but it's really everybody speaks English. So
Great, awesome. And then for the last question, we will ask about the application process. So we did have some questions about that. And so Madeline, in terms of the application process, what did you find to be the most challenging part?
I think the most challenging part was sort of like I believe like narrowing down my ideas like in the essays itself because like there's so much to talk about and just like narrowing it down to like my experiences and really tapping into like why I want to study abroad and really thinking about that was sort of difficult. But overall, like I felt like the application was pretty decent and it was pretty like easy to get through. But yeah, but don't worry, it's like not as intimidating as it seems like, I guess you could say.
Russell, what about you? What did you find to be the most challenging part of the application process for you?
Sorry, it kind of froze on me there for a second. Oh,
It's okay.
yeah, my internet connection is unstable, it says. Can y'all still hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I would say I don't think the application process is difficult is not really a word I would use for it. I think the hardest part for me was figuring out what program I wanted to go on. So I think the application itself it's got a lot of helpful tips, and you can always contact CIE people if you need help. And I don't it shouldn't it was not too much of a challenge for me, I don't think.
Yeah, we do also do virtual webinars on Wednesdays and do like application help sessions as well. So yeah, so thank you both for sharing your experience with our virtual fair. Both programs sound awesome. I definitely would have loved to do these programs when I was in high school. Um, so just quickly, one last question. Actually, this is a great question to ask. In terms of parents, how this might have. I think Russell, you said this was your first time in Europe, and I'm not sure Madeline if this was your first time. But in terms of your parents, how did they feel about both of you going abroad all by yourself for 3 weeks? And getting kind of them on board to have you do this. We have about 5 minutes, so maybe 1 minute each, Madeline, and then pass it over to you, Russell.
Okay. So for me, I think I definitely had like a special case. Like my parents were very like they really wanted me to study abroad and they were really like on my side of going to this through this program. But I know like a lot of people in my program, they did have to convince their parents. Well, honestly, like just advertise it as like it's a really good and learning experience. And like even though it can be daunting to spend like 3 weeks alone, like without your parents, there's still like one phone call away. Like I would call my parents like every couple of days or even every day or just like check in, like little check-ins, like little texts. So yeah, like I was still connected with my parents, which is really nice. And also like it was just really interesting like being like independent from them and like you kind of like don't know like how much you rely on them in certain ways. But yeah, like definitely like advertise it as like a really good experience to your parents because like it's honestly like really helpful and it's helped me a lot in like in my life. And yeah, but yeah.
Russell, what about you? Were your parents on board like Madeline's, or did you have to do a little bit of convincing?
Yeah, I think my parents were pretty on board. My dad kind of pushed me into it. I had another thing I was going to be doing that summer, and then it fell through. And so this seemed like it's kind of a backup. Ended up being much better. And so my dad almost kind of pushed me into it. But I think, yeah, again, a lot of your messaging to your parents, it's a great learning experience. I think I felt very safe and confident the whole time I was over there. They can connect with the chaperone and the leaders over there anytime if they need to. And there's nothing that stops you from checking in with your parents. And
Yep.
you're not going to be disconnected. I think yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Well, again, thank you both so much. Madeline, she is one of our ambassadors from New York City. So if you're in the New York City area, Madeline, I don't know if you'd be willing to kind of share your information with our guests if they want to reach out to you. Russell's in North Carolina. Same with you if you both wanted to, pop an email or, into the chat, or an Instagram handle or anything like that. But we do also have a lot more sessions this week. This is our virtual fair week. So I know we had a question about scholarships. A lot of questions typically we do have. So we do have 2 different scholarship webinars this week. So be sure to go check the full schedule. You can scan that QR code and register for any other types of sessions you might find useful, like a scholarship session. We also have, why study abroad is important in college applications with 2 college reps from Dean College and George Washington University, and also different types of other topic and language programs that you might be interested in. Thank you so much again to Madeline and Russell. You both were wonderful and advocating for study abroad and for your programs. And I appreciate everyone joining us this evening. My name is Lauren. I am the Global Education Advisor from Florida and Georgia. And we hope to see some of you guys this summer on some of our programs. So thank you again so much. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.